Well, sometimes your opponent is going to play a very good game. This happened to me for example, during the Olympiad in Norway. I played Veselin Topalov in a very inspired game. He just played an amazing game. I lost, and even I would say I'm proud of this game. Even if I lost, I managed to defend very well during 10-15 moves in a very difficult position. If you lose such a game, just get over it and keep playing the tournament. It's not such a big deal, and it's going to be a rare thing. It's not going to happen so often, and most of you are not going to play super strong players like Topalov very often, at least not every game. So it's not the most important chapter of this chess repertoire, but it's going to be an interesting one too. So, thank you.
Well, from time to time you're going to play someone who is very inspired. And this game is a little bit like this. I played Bosnian Grandmaster. He's a very good player, excellent player, Predojevic. And he was very inspired, actually. I made a mistake and he didn't give me a chance. And, well, with these games, I think it's not so hard to lose such a game, actually. I mean, of course, you don't like to lose games, and nobody likes to lose games. But I would say this is the easiest kind of games that you can lose, because your opponent plays almost a perfect game. What can you do? And luckily, this happens not so often. I mean, maybe Predojevic is not such a famous player like other games I showed so far, like, I don't know, like with Topalov or Leko. And in these games with these very famous players, they didn't even play so good as Borky played this game. So, well, it's just a matter of psychologically recover for the next day. And personally, I don't find it so hard. I mean, he played a very good game, and it's just a game to enjoy and to see the interesting moments of the game. And, well, once I made a mistake, there was no moment that I could even come back into the game. So, well, that's it. One mistake sometimes is enough. And it wasn't even a blunder. It was a mistake, but in some positions you'll see it's hard to play good chess sometimes. It's not. I fell into a difficult position, and it's not so easy. Okay, enough talking, and let's move some pieces. E4, C5, knight f3, d6. I prepared for this game bishop b5 check, which is a very solid alternative to d4. It's not a worse move than d4. In fact, for example, Magnus Carlsen plays it often. So it's very interesting. Knight c6. Bishop d7, of course, is another move, and even another move is knight d7, which is the move that normally black plays if they want to play for a win in a most aggressive way. But it's still very solid position for white, so it's not really such a big deal. But, well, in this game, he played knight c6. This can also come from this position, from a Rosolimo with knight c6, bishop b5, and here, if black plays d6, it comes to the same position. Although black here normally chooses to play g6 or e6. These are the most common moves. But, well, okay, everything is playable, so far it's not so important. I mean, as far as you know it a little bit, any of these moves are perfectly playable. So, okay, d6 check, knight c6. Of course, castle is perfectly playable as well. Even c3 is a normal move. But bishop c6, I think it's quite a good move. He took b takes c6. Now there is ideas with e5, trying to stop black to play e5. But on the other hand, of course, it's very useful to castle as soon as possible. And, well, I wouldn't know what is better. This one is also interesting. And, of course, here black can try to play something like bishop g4 or even f6. And it's quite a clear position. Or even d-e5, knight e5, and then queen d5, attacking both e5 and g2. So basically forcing you to come back to knight f3, sorry, and then, well, it's still quite a clear position. Bishop g4 can come, or even check on e6 is possible. Quite unclear. e5 is another possibility. I decided that I had prepared for this game to play castle. I think it's a normal move. Of course, now white is threatening to play e5 in very good conditions. If something that is not e5 is coming, then white will play e5 themselves. For example, e6 will be a very bad mistake, because then e5, and the structure is going to be very bad. For example, imagine something like d5. Now, white normally plays in something like a Nimzo-Indian style. Even we are white, we can play the same ideas that we play with black in Nimzo-Indian. We'll play something like d3, sometimes c4, knight c3, b3, knight a4, and then bishop a3, attacking the pawn on c5 and taking advantage of this weakness. So he played e5, avoiding all this stuff. And here, well, black has two bishops. So this means in the long term, if we don't play very active with white, we are going to have trouble in the end. But we have already the knight out, it's developed, and we have also castle. So we are basically 2 tempos up with white here. And we need to actually open the position as fast as possible, because the black's king is still here on e8. And we need to take advantage of that. If we play slow, it's going to be bad. So it's a little bit counterintuitive in some way, because the bishops also play better in an open position. But the most important factor in chess is the king normally. So we have to open the position before it gets to a safe place on the king side. So we play c3 with the idea of simply playing d4 and opening everything. Now if black plays something like knight f6, we could play simply rook e1, and next move is d4. And after d4 is going to be hard for black to keep it closed. But let's say, for example, bishop e7, d4, cd4, cd4, and something like queen c7. But now, in the worst case, at some point, white can take on e5, and, for example, to force this kind of structure. And maybe black has to suffer a little bit here. They have some weaknesses on a7, c6, e5, and I don't know, a plan like queen c2, b3, bishop b2, knight bd2, knight c4, it's going to create a little bit of trouble for black. So this is slightly better, slightly more comfortable for white. So he played f5. So far everything is well known, and I was even prepared for this in this game. So I prepared to play ef5, which is normal. d4, it's a possible move, but looks so strange to me. fe4. And now you need to go with a knight somewhere, I don't know, knight g5 or knight d2. And it's kind of possible, but it's a little bit strange, actually. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it doesn't look so logical to me. I think it's much more logical what I did in game. E takes e5. And now, well, next move is coming d4, almost against everything. So, well, only e4 could be, but the problem is like something like rook e1 will be enough, because d3 is coming, and with rook e1 we pin the pawn, and then black will be in trouble very soon. So e4 is too aggressive and just a bad move. So knight f6, and then we play d4, of course. That's the whole idea of this setup. Try to open the position as fast as possible. Well, here in the game happened cd4, which is normal. Black wants to get rid of the doubled pawn. e4 immediately, it's possible as well. It's also an interesting move. But okay, cd4 is kind of more normal. Just take. And now, of course, he played the only move, e4. Taking on d4 just makes no sense. It's just probably losing immediately. Rook e1 check, and then knight d4. And now the knight is not only protecting f5, our extra pawn, and also it's touching on c6 and jumping to e6 any moment, so it's just killing. So ed4 is a terrible move, and e4 is keeping the position as close as possible, attacking the knight on f3. Now rook e1 is not so strong because simply bishop e7, and black is preparing to castle on the king side. And of course this pawn on f5 is suffering, and it might just be taken at any moment. So I played knight g5. I was still in the book here, so I was still prepared. And well, he played d5, which is a very logical move. I think around here I started to be not so sure what if I prepared everything or not. But I had the feeling during the game that I've checked it a little bit before, and this position should be better for white. And actually, maybe it's not true, and maybe that provoked the mistake that came afterwards. Because if you think you're better and you cannot find how to do it, then you'll overpress, you'll play too aggressive for the position you have. And maybe it was the time to think that the position is around equal. But I still wanted to have some pressure. And of course, it doesn't help that I had like around 100 elo points more than my opponent. So then you also play more aggressive. You want to create more problems for your opponent. You don't want to make a draw. But as I said, I mean, he's well, nowadays the 2650 player, at this moment almost 2600 player. It's a very strong opponent, and you cannot really play over aggressive because you can get in trouble very quickly. Anyway, okay, after d5 I played f3, which is the normal move. The knight on g5, it's in a very compromised situation. By the moment, it still can jump to e6, but don't forget that black is threatening to take on f5 at any moment. So basically, white needs to hurry, and f3 is the obvious move. And trying to just to open the position, to justify the knight on g5, and to try to take advantage of the king on e8. Here he played the best move, h6. If he would simply play bishop d6, then take e4, knight c3, and now we see the difference. The rook is protecting f5, and white is clearly better here. So bishop d6 is wrong. So he played h6 is a good move, forcing me to make a decision with this knight on g5. Going back to h3 doesn't make much sense, actually. Instead of that, then you could go knight fd2 or something. So it was an easy decision to go knight e6, actually. I could have checked to give the knight on e4, but as I didn't prepare for that, it's a little hard to take such a decision here. Because, well, it's an interesting move, but it's quite unclear. After taking everything on e4, let's say some check on h5, king d7, and white has some compensation, but it's hard to find more than that. Probably black is doing okay here. So this is hard to play, and by the moment I thought everything's going under control, so I didn't have a reason to really try to get away from the main line. Knight e6 is the normal move, bishop e6, f e6. Of course, I'm still a pawn up. This pawn on e6 is extra for white. But on the other hand, after bishop d6, the normal move, black has already some target on h2, and he's ready to almost castle next move, and this pawn on e6 is not really helping a lot. So the development is almost equal already, and the pawn advantage is not so important. And I think actually black is doing fine, but of course not better, but just around equal. Anyway, maybe it was the time to take on e4. Maybe it was important already to take and to ask black, because okay, now of course knight e4 is very bad because of queen h5 check. But after d4, knight c3 castle, position is around equal, but I think this is pretty playable. This is okay. I mean, maybe even white can be a little bit better or something. Probably it's around equal, but nothing special. But it's definitely not so dangerous for white. I played instead of fe4, I played knight c3 immediately. My opponent played castle. ef3 was the normal move as well. But after queen f3, castle, probably this is around equal as well. But my opponent played castle. And here, I'm sure I thought for a long time, because it's a very important move. And basically you have two options. You can take on e4, going back to the position we checked before a little bit. Or you can play f4, which is the most ambitious move. And actually, this mixes a little bit of few mistakes that I made. Probably the preparation, home preparation wasn't good enough, because I thought I was better, and actually I'm not better here. And maybe I was a little bit too optimistic, as I said before as well. So f4 is a mix of everything, and it's probably wrong. And it's I just underestimated my opponent's next move, which is quite strong actually. After this move, it's hard for white to play. After queen c7, my feelings are a little bit mixed here, because now I cannot really go h5 so easily anymore, because h2 is hanging, and he's trying just to collect my pawn on e6. And black structure is just better than white structure. So now I really need to play carefully, and in the long term I might be in trouble here. So it's a difficult and strange position at the same time. I played h3, which looks very, very normal to me. Now you want to play f5 and protect your extra pawn on e6, but on the other side it weakens this diagonal, it weakens the g3 square, and it's also dangerous, but it's not easy to find a move here actually. A move like g3, for example, rook a e8, f5, and after bishop h3, the typical sacrifice that normally leads to a draw. Here actually, if white takes the bishop on g3, you are in trouble. You're losing with white, because queen g3, king h1, check again, king g1, and now knight h5, and this knight g3 threat is just killing. So basically, and everything is falling. The f5 and the e6 pawn are gonna fall, and there is mating attack as well. So black is basically winning here. So g3 is very dangerous. And another move could be something like bishop e3, but it looks a little bit passive to play like this. After rook e8, for example, rook c1. This was the best option probably, but it doesn't look very impressive. But actually white could play for a little advantage maybe here, although it's a normal position. But yeah, bishop e3 was probably very precise, but it's not an easy move. And maybe after bishop e3 he could still play like in the game something like g6. Anyway, let's follow the game, because it's very interesting what happened. I played h3, and here I was still pretty happy with my position. But now, well, I was expecting mostly a move like rook a e8, then I go f5, and everything is basically under control. After check on h2, I can go king h1, and well, everything is okay. White is much better already here. So rook e8 is wrong, but he played a very precise move, g6. And after this, I thought for a long time. I was calculating a lot, and I didn't like it so too much. And I was checking again and again the same variations. And at some point, I think I convinced myself that white should be doing okay, because I didn't do anything wrong. But this is not a very scientific way to think, actually. This is, well, it's a position, and you should, and I haven't seen it before, so you should try to be critical and try to be aware that it can be anything. It can be that you are even worse with white. And actually, in fact, there is an only way to equalize this position, and it's very hard to find for a human. Actually, the best line probably is something like bishop e3, knight h5, queen g4, king h7, and now the only move is rook ac1, which is very difficult move actually. I mean, it's a logical move because you're threatening knight d5 or knight b5. But on the other hand, for example, a move like knight e2, knight g7, this is clearly better for black already. Because moves like knight f5 are coming, or h5, and the queen on g4 is in trouble. So here is difficult for white. So it's a little bit tricky already, the position. Anyway, I was maybe too optimistic still, and I played f5. And here, I just missed a very important move. Of course, I was expecting a move like knight h5. This was not the move that I missed, but something went wrong simply. Knight h5. I was still in time to play something like knight e2, and at least I will not get mated, because I'm covering the very important square on g3. And still h6 is hanging, and white has little play here, but after queen g7, probably white is worse, but still in the game. But this was queen g4, probably my first serious mistake, but the problem is it's the first and the last one. There is no escape after this. And he punished me very well. Actually, he played a nice game, and I couldn't complain much. I miscalculated something here. Queen g4, bishop h2, king h1, knight g3 check. This is all kind of forced. There is not much else to do. I'm threatening to play knight e2 with the queen on g4, and black will be in trouble. So knight g3 check, king takes an h2, knight f1 check, king g1, and now he plays queen h2 check, king f1, rook f5 check, king e2, and maybe I thought I was doing okay here. Because in 1-2 moves, I mean, right now I'm threatening to play queen g6 check, so I win a tempo, and in 1-2 tempos, after bishop e3 and rook somewhere, I will be totally developed and I will be in an almost winning position. But the problem is, like, after king h7, it's a very strong move, and I'm not in time. I'm not in time to play bishop e3 because h5, and there is no square for the queen on g4. And then if g2 falls, the whole position will fall, because my king will have to go to the first rank, and then this rook will never get into play. So basically, I'm lost already. Just one mistake, one big mistake with this queen g4. f5 was a little inaccuracy probably, but one mistake, and basically now it's over. There is king h7. There is no way to escape already. I tried to fight a little bit because it's a little bit sad to resign in 24 moves, but he didn't give me a chance. h5 is very important. Otherwise, I'll be still alive here, but h5 is just too strong. Queen h4 is the only square. Take on g2, king b1, and here, and only here, he didn't play the best move by computer, but on the other hand, there are lots of moves that are winning, so you don't really need to play the most precise move here. As far as you don't blunder anything, the position is already so strong. My pieces are so passive here then that black pieces are gonna kill me very quickly. There was a move like e3, maybe it was even stronger. The idea is after bishop e3, rook f1 is destroying everything because it forces to queen e1. And now you can take the queen. And after bishop e1, there are moves like even like queen b2, and everything is just falling apart. So e3 was winning very easily, but queen f1, what he played, it's a good move. It's good enough. I played bishop e1. If queen e1, then simply queen d3, and Rook f1 is very strong threat. So I played bishop e1, queen d3 check, king c1, and again, rook f1 is maybe stronger, but he played rook e8. But sometimes when you are completely winning, you don't need to play the best move, and it's not absolutely necessary in this case. Black has just a huge advantage because my pieces are totally uncoordinated here. So he wanted to protect a possible check on e7 and also to collect this pawn on e6. I played b3, trying to organize a little bit my pieces, but after queen d4, king b2, rook e6, he collected all the pawns, and now this two passed pawns already. He has 3 pawns and the rook for the 2 pieces, and it's just a terrible position. Rook d1, queen f6. The endgames are hopeless here for white, so I tried to escape and to create some little trick, but there is no way to escape. Rook f3, queen b8. Let's see how the game ended, but it was quite easy. Rook e7, h4, rook f1, rook c1, d4, knight a4, rook e1, and I resigned. If I take on e1, then queen f2, and he takes back the rook, and I'm totally lost. So, well, it's a good game. Borky played a good game, and I didn't make many mistakes, actually. We will see games where I made more mistakes, and I was still very close to save the game. Here I made basically one mistake, and it wasn't even such a big blunder. I mean, it was a bad move, but it was in a position where I was a little bit under pressure, and he didn't give me a chance to come back. And sometimes the kind of position you are playing, sometimes you can make mistakes and sometimes you cannot. This is a position where you cannot make mistakes because one mistake will be the last one. So, well, that's it. Thank you.